Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto City. Tonight we'll be continuing our month's guests from our VR community. In a few minutes, we'll be visiting with Titan BCXR and we'll hear about his graphic design and world building adventures here in the Metaverse. Just a quick few news bites first though. As you are aware, it seems like weekly now, AI programs are emerging. ChatGPT still remains a benchmark for the large language models, but forces like Google are coming on really strong. In an effort to regain the upper hand of the gifted talent pool, OpenAI is actually aggressively pursuing the top artificial intelligence candidates from Google, enticing the senior AI researchers with multi-million-dollar annual compensation packages. This is largely in stock, but it's pretty impressive to think that this is what their lengths that they're going to try and recruit people. So because they're just such fierce competition right now. I mean, the potential tripling of OpenAI's valuation to over $80 billion adds weight to its appeal as well. And the focus is on Google employees involved in developing the Gemini family of AI models. So in response to, the market conditions, OpenAI has also granted raises to the junior employees. So this is a time to get involved in AI. I mean, for the people who are out there who are actively pursuing careers in this, they are willing to compensate if you are good. We've talked about prompt engineering. We had a couple episodes on it, one with Meta Day. And, this is what you want to start learning. Because even if you're not going to actively pursue a career in this is going to start influencing all careers out there. You're going to need to understand how it works in order to be able to excel at the job that you have pretty much in most industries. So this is definitely something I feel like you guys need to be looking into. The battle for talent between OpenAI and Google is intense. It's marked by high-profile hirings and poachings. I mean, they're out there poaching from each other, with both companies emphasizing on their computer resources. So, you know what? Look into it, learn it. It's definitely critical right now. This isn't the future. This is now. So also this week, the entertainment industry has big news when it comes to AI. I mean, after enduring the longest strike in Hollywood history, spanning 118 days, the Screen Actors Guild, or SAG-AFTRA, has successfully negotiated a deal with the Alliance Motion Picture and Television Producers. So while the specific details of the agreement still remain a little bit undisclosed, the resolution comes after discussions involving concerns over the use of AI in actors' performances and actors' demands for residual payments related to the content streamed on platforms. I mean, SAG's commitment approved the deal and the strike, and marked by pickets outside major entertainment offices, it's set to end on Thursday, with a tentative agreement expected to go underway with approval on Friday. I mean, this is huge. There have been so many movies on hold. There have been so many actors out of work. And then think of all the people who are involved in movie and television production that have been out of work, comedians that have been out of work. There's a lot of people affected by this. And even if you're not involved in that industry, you're affected by it because as a consumer and a watcher, your entertainment has been put on hold while they're trying to, get this going. And now some of these projects that have been on hold for so long, they have to hope that they can keep their funding so that they can finish, because some projects were already underway. I mean, this marks a significant milestone for the $130 billion plus Hollywood industry. It's faced a substantial slowdown this past year. And, negotiations around the use of generative AI were a major point of contention. I mean, we're all excited about AI. We're like, look what we can do. But then look at the musicians whose videos that are out there and songs that are being created that has actually, stolen their identity, if you want to say. Now, I think, in my personal opinion, there is a happy medium to come into. I think that using AI can be beneficial in these industries. But I do think that there needs to be some regulation on it. That's just my opinion. I feel like you can't be stealing, like there's a difference in, writing a business proposal and using AI for it and actually taking a human being and taking their vocals, taking their acting and, taking that from them when that's their livelihood. So maybe there's a happy compromise to be found in there where you use generative AI to help with, maybe this helps with stunt doubles. Maybe this helps with, background vocals of a singer where they're using their same voice to get multiple pieces of this, amazing musical pieces that come out. But right now, there needs to be some regulations put in so that human beings aren't lost in the process. And I think that they will figure it out. I think, the strikes are concluding. There's cautious optimism regarding the industry's future and addressing, concerns about fair wages and the evolving landscape of AI in entertainment. This is, where it's at right now. So I'm sure we'll be seeing more challenges like this, but I'm also sure that we're going to see resolutions to it. And again, this is now. This is where we're at, and it's evolving every day. So stay tuned. Now, I would like you all to join me as we welcome tonight's guest. So please send up some emojis and a warm welcome for Titan BCXR. Please come out, Titan. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. How you doing? Come on in and grab a seat. So thank you for joining us tonight. We're excited to hear all about your journey. Tell us a little bit about how you actually got into AI and into the metaverse. When did you, were you already, a gamer, or is this something that's relatively new for you?
Yeah, so I was gaming for a few years before I actually got into this stuff. And right when I started messing with the softwares required to upload worlds and graphics, I had my uncle approach me and wanted me to join his company, which is BCXR. That's where the BCXR comes from.
Okay.
And he gave me a bunch of hardware allowing me to go into this field. I've spent, since I was about 10 or 11, doing this stuff, and I've learned quite a bit off of it. So
that's impressive. That's a long time to be working on this. So, your specialty is graphic design, and were you involved in graphic design and artwork before BCXR, or did this kind of evolve together?
So with the graphic design, it actually came from me creating things in Blender, seeing how I can create the worlds and stuff, and then I wanted to look into possibly creating my own logos and creating some graphics that I can use to represent myself. So that's when I started dipping into some YouTubers that will allow me to look into creating those graphics. A few that I looked at are Blender Guru. He's a very good resource to have. And then we have the official Blender YouTube channel that has some great videos out there for you to use.
So Blender is used by many of the people in our audience here and throughout, world builders, avatar builders, everybody's using Blender now. And, it's a complex program to jump right into and learn, but I've seen amazing things that you can do in there. Have you found it for yourself personally to be, something that you flow with nicely, or is it something that sometimes can be a bit challenging?
So when I started with Blender, I actually came from a coding background. So I'm a software developer, and that helped me learn the tools of this application to be able to better create what I wanted to see.
Okay. So here we have your logo up here, and we've seen this in some of the worlds that you've created and, on your Instagram and accounts. So this is this? It's called is it called an obelisk? The snake that's eating its own tail.
So I found that in a game. I'm not quite familiar with what game it was. I'm not remembering very well, but I just kind of saw it on the internet. I'm like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to smack my name in the center of. So I brought it into Blender, added some coloring to it, and threw my name in there with a special font.
Okay. So for you, you're using Blender almost in a similar fashion for this particular purpose as like Adobe Photoshop or Acrobat.
Yeah.
More of a graphic design creator. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So these are other logos you've created for other people?
Yeah, so the one in the top left was created for my brother's friend. He was looking at some interesting stuff, and he's like, I kind of want one of these to be a logo to represent myself. So I went ahead and threw that together in maybe an hour and 30 minutes. The one in the center there is for a buddy of mine. His name is Rhinu. He streams on Twitch, and I just approached him like, hey, I'd like to make a logo for you, see what you think of it, and that's what I came up with. And then the one on the right side is made for a user named Just Will. It doesn't sound like he's streaming on Twitch anymore, but he wanted that to be created after his CSGO gaming channel.
Okay. So those are all, these, you created all of these in Blender then?
Yes, they're all created in Blender.
Okay. So this has kind of become your go-to for graphic design at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I spent many years working on it, and one thing with the image on the screen now, that is actually an animation where it's a perfectly flat floor where you can't even tell that box pops up, and then it just forms out of the ground.
Wow, that's actually really cool. So now Burcastle XR that's BCXR. So what exactly does this company do?
We were a company that would do, we would create the worlds that people use for events. We would help moderate and host these events. We don't do that so much anymore. We're more of a back-end type systems company. We build special scripts and things for people to use here in VR chat and many other places.
Okay. All right. So very timely then. And it's impressive that you've, grown so intensely with this company and then into what you're doing here in the metaverse right now. So the migration of creating from, flat 3D logo designs into, animations. So, what are you using to create animations? Is it also Blender, or are you using some other programs as well?
So everything I create is actually in Blender. I use Blender for everything, whether that's coming to Photoshop, animation, object creation. It's all in Blender.
Okay. So let's talk about the use of your graphic images after you've created them. So obviously logos, simple enough. We all know what people are using the logos for. But some of these 3D images that you've created, have you brought them into the metaverse, or are these being used for, videos or some other type of platform?
So some of these images are actually meant to be as desktop wallpapers, but I do tend to look at them, and I would imagine them being in one of these little picture frames that we have on the wall. I do have quite a few of them set up in some of my worlds. I know the first world I released, I used some of these images just for something to put on the wall. Other than having those there, they were just images I created off of a whim. Just got bored, created them just to see what I could do.
So just an artist having a little fun with his muse.
Yeah, pretty much.
So now you've also created some videos with these images. You've got, so we see this one here, cinematic render. This is actually the image. And then the next slide will show the video portion of that image. So what would be the purpose of what is this being utilized for?
They were just some fun videos to create. They're perfect at infinite loops if we would to loop the video. And that image that we saw before was actually just rendered after I created the animation.
Okay.
I paused the animation and took a render of it.
We see a lot of worlds in here where people have video imagery happening in, like, whether it's as the wallpaper on a wall or in the ceiling of a world. You'll see that, like, now your images can be used for those things, correct?
So that would take a little bit more modification, because in these images I'm not using a panoramic camera. I'm just using one focal type camera where it's just facing one direction. I could swap these over to panoramic, but that would take me some time. Other than that, if they were panoramic, yes, they could be used for that.
Okay. So there's I think it might be the next slide that we're going to look at, where we talk about the software that you would bring things into for people in here who are doing graphic design, who don't really, don't necessarily do world building, but they want to get a little bit more involved. What would you recommend in addition to Blender for them to learn to use? Like, for example, here's this one, cubes. I mean, this video is pretty fun to watch. It may be a little bit triggering, but it's beautiful. So, like, if, what would you recommend that people learn as software programs, and where would they go for resources on this?
So I generally focus on some free applications that I can just poke around and figure out, but most of these animations are created straight from Blender. I didn't use any other applications. Other applications you can use if you're trying to get some textures and stuff to modify and fix up, I use a GIMP. It's it's kind of like Adobe Photoshop, and then I use Inkscape to convert the images, if they're black and white images, into SVG files, and then I can import those directly to Blender.
Okay. All right. So for you, you're either starting in Blender or ending in Blender, but it's all about Blender. So,
yeah.
Now, it's pretty, like, this is really cool. I mean, the motion that you've got on some of these, it's funny because I feel like, sometimes whether we're using different software packages for presentations or people using imagery like this for, whether it's for designs in a world or anything, like, I feel like you don't think about the amount of time that it goes into to actually, come up with a cool idea and then actually give it the motion that it needs. Or you said most of these are infinite loops. So, I mean, you could just have this playing nonstop behind a DJ, who's doing a performance. And this is going to be exactly what people see when they're on YouTube and everything else. But this isn't something that, this is something that you've spent the time, you've created it, you've put in the thought to make this look as good as it does.
Yeah, so it's just a bunch of light tricks. With this lava tunnel, I actually just have a light in front of the camera that follows the camera. That's all the white reflections you see. And with the animation, it's just spinning in a donut. The donut will go up and down according to how I set the camera trace. Got it.
Okay. So where do you envision, other than, right now you said you're using most of these as just, beautiful artifacts hanging on a wall. Where do you envision that this stuff could be used for your benefit down the road?
I could convert all these videos into VR chat worlds if I wanted to. That would just take some time in getting the animations to convert over into Unity. But so far they've just been in my files and uploading to social media to show off what I can do. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit. Okay, this one's actually really cool. This is very, I love the motion in this one. This one kind of gives me that, sci-fi Armageddon feeling. I like this one a lot. And I could watch this because I think if it was in an infinite loop, I find it very peaceful and tranquil to just watch the flow of it. But let's talk, you just, touched on the fact that you could convert these into VR chat worlds. So I know that you're also, doing some world building. So I know you've already created a couple and you're actively involved in creating one right now. So how did the progression happen from doing some, basic graphic design into, hey, let's create worlds in VR chat? Is it simply just because you were here having fun, or was this something that maybe you were, commissioned to do?
So it started off as me doing something for fun, but it went into me wanting to bring new worlds into the place for people to just go over and hang out in. Not only that, just to once again show off that I can do this type of stuff.
So the world you're working on right now, I actually got a little behind the scenes sneak peek, don't tell. But you're working on a new world right now. And it's an adult world. And why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Because you actually blasted out the base for that pretty quickly. And now you're working on enhancing it. So give us a little bit of details about this, because I know that you mentioned to me that this is something that people are actually going to be able to have both limited access on one level and maybe some extended access if they're part of your Patreon.
Yeah, so what made me want to build it is I was watching a TV series called Ruby. It's an anime, and I saw one of the clubs they had set up in the TV series, and I kind of thought I liked the style it was set up in, so I went ahead and immediately went over to Blender and started building this world. For the initial base room, it took me maybe an hour or two to get it fully set up and ready to go. But then I've spent the last maybe 3 days just getting functionality and putting code into the world.
Mm-hmm. Now, this world has integrated into it some, so you have your main area, and then there's actually rooms with private access. So explain a little bit about how that works, because, in different worlds in here, we see, like, even for this show here, not everybody can come up on stage. You need private access. So how are you able to, control who can go where and who can do what within these worlds?
So I put on authentication for the VIP rooms where it will test it against a list of usernames. The list of usernames is provided from my Patreon, so as soon as someone signs up, they would be then put into that list and automatically downloaded to the world. That script that will download it, I am currently working on trying to get some systems to get that to work. But that's a fairly basic, easy rundown of it. It's just an authentication system that checks on a list.
Okay. So this world is going to be available to everybody who's in VR chat just to enter. But if you want the VIP access to these rooms, if you want to be able to, utilize some of the private things that are available in there, you'll need to become a Patreon member. We are going to put all of these slides and this video on Discord, as we always do. In there, we will put the links for your Instagram and your Patreon, so that people can join that. Now, we've had many people on the show who have a Patreon, and it's kind of cool the way that this works is that for those of us who are in, whether it's VR chat, Horizon, any of these different metaverse platforms, there's public worlds that everybody can get into. With the Patreon, you've got better access to different things, and there are tiers and levels within there. Now, I know that your Patreon for you is a little bit newer, so you're trying to recruit people onto it. But as these worlds grow, you can grant people who are in your Patreon different levels to different things. We've had, Kip VR has been on here. He has an amazing Patreon with lots of people that are on it. DJ Marcus has one, and you give people different levels. Now, for this particular world that you're creating, it's an adult 18 plus world. Everyone will have access to get into the main lounge area. Do you see that, obviously somebody's a Patreon member, they have access to this. Do you see that you're going to continue growing these worlds to have more functionality based on tiers, more functionality based on, even other worlds that you create, that you'll want to keep people, hey, this is enticing. Join at Patreon, you get this. And we're going to continue updating. So every time you're in a different tier, you're going to get more things each month or every quarter or something like that.
Yeah, so with some of my previous worlds, I do have VIP systems in there already, and their purpose is to give people quicker access to special teleports in the world, and I was developing a system to allow players to teleport to other players. That way, if you have your friend in a large world and you don't quite know where they're at, if you're a VIP, you can click on their username and teleport directly to them.
Ooh, I love that idea. That happens quite a bit in here when we're in different worlds and, you're trying to get to them and especially if you're like playing one of these worlds where, it's like a game and they're further in and you want to get to them. That would be a great one. Now, is that something that you can actually implement into other people's worlds or just in the worlds that you create?
So I'm building the system to be universal, allowing people to implement it if they want it. I may end up putting that up on Gumroad once it's complete, but for now it's just going to be for my VIP users.
I love that. So for those of you who don't know, Gumroad is another website where you can go as a resource to download assets. And this script would be an asset that people would be able to get. Now, for the world builders that are in here, so scripting is a big thing. You said you're a coder. It's a big thing in here for making extra functionality within different worlds. For those of you who are travelers here in the metaverse and you're checking things out all the time and going to different worlds, sometimes I think we take for granted that within certain worlds, the functionalities that are in there are actually extra added on scripts and assets for your enjoyable experience, but it's not actually built into it's added on. So tell us about maybe some scripts that you've created that have had some additional functionality like that.
So in some of my previous worlds, I've added grabbable objects. They're able to pick them up and throw them around. A basic script to add into the world is to have those reset. In one of my worlds, I have it hooked into the VIP access. Then I also have a public button. With the VIP access, you don't really necessarily have to move over to where that button is. You just pull up a little menu in front of you, and then you can click on the reset object. Other than that, with the scripts that I'm developing currently for the nightclub, it is with the authentication that is set up in a way where if you don't have access, it'll pop a little message on the door saying access denied. And then I have other scripts in there where you can teleport, let's say the bar in the nightclub, you could teleport into that bar and then you can toggle that entrance button so that no one else can get in there and start messing with your stuff. To keep it kind of the bartender is the only one that can access that. And to prevent users from being able to get to those objects without entering the bar, I put a double collider in front of the bar where the bartender could put the drinks on the bar and then the user can reach in and grab those drinks. Just basic functionality and creating some special systems allowing people to do more in VR chat.
Okay. So for those of you who are doing events or that you have worlds that you are trying to limit access to different areas, this would be the kind of script that you'd be interested in. Now, I know that, we've talked a few times about different things that you are capable of doing for other people. And I've also heard you, offering consultations to people who are in here, whether it's world builders or, people who are doing events. And even we've talked right before the show about some possible, enhancements to this, to the stage area. So, now, your services are, you're willing to talk to people who are in here, who are world builders and, offer some consultation. And maybe if they were interested in some of these scripts, this is something that you could collaborate on so that your script could be, incorporated into their world, their event space, things like that. Correct?
Yeah. With these scripts, I can say this, I use AI to generate them. But I do have an understanding of the code enough. If the AI does it wrong, I can go in and edit it and create it to be the way it needs to be.
We did talk a little bit last week about how AI has become a very good tool and an assistant to people who are doing coding and scripting to be able to find errors and fix them and also help make it more efficient to create these scripts for these different worlds.
Yeah, so with the scripts I have currently in my nightclub, I created those within 2 days, and then it's just minor adjustments to make them work the way we want them. The one I just completed is a syncing script where you create your other scripts and then you plug it directly into this syncing script that will then help sync it to all the clients in the world.
Okay. Now I know when we was talking the other day, you had made a couple comments about, in earlier tonight, you gave reference to like, getting things to respawn back to where they started. I mean, I've been in some worlds in here that have a lot of spawnable objects and objects that you can move around, play with, turn things on and off with, different colliders and everything. And what often happens, I mean, there's even in movies and chill, there's pillows and things like that you can move around on the couches. And then the room becomes messy. And it would be great to just have, get everything to go back to its original space easily without like resyncing the whole room. So I think these scripts that you're creating for that would be great for some of these type of worlds.
Yeah, so the difference between my reset script and others is my reset script takes one object in and resets any child of that object. Just to make it easier for people in the inspector, because if you have so many objects, you have to go through and manually put those in for every object. Instead, we can make it where you put these as a child, as a, let's say, empty game object. And then you assign that game object to the script and will automatically pick up all the children of that object, store the initial rotation and position of those, then you click a button and it will go through and reset all those.
That is the easiest cleanup. Could you make that happen for my stuff at home so I could just hit a button and everything goes back to where it belongs? That would be lovely. I love it. So what else are you working on for the future besides this nightclub? What else is coming up with you?
Well, I mean, I'm always looking into creating more worlds and adding in special functionalities for them. So that will always be a thing. And I do constantly say most of my worlds are always a work in progress because I'm never quite finished with it. I go in there and I see more things I can add and more special objects I can put in there. For the future, I'm looking into possibly going farther into the coding end, where I can create better functionality and smaller scripts to do some more advanced stuff.
Mm-hmm. So now I know, like I said, I've heard you talk to people in here, offer some suggestions, some ideas for different things. I know that you also helped one of our audience members, Atessa, do some extra things at her karaoke club. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So that is a system I created that interfaces with YouTube. I don't want to go too far into it because of some back-end issues that we need to fix. But how that is set up is the user would put in their search URL. They would search for a YouTube video they want. We would then go grab that from YouTube and display that to the user. After that is displayed, you can then click on a play button for whatever video you want, and we'll send it right to the video player for them to use.
Mm-hmm. That's I've been there a few times. I've seen it in action. Very cool. So, I mean, I love the fact that your creativity isn't so pigeonholed into just one thing. I mean, you're doing the graphic design, you're building worlds, you're creating scripts, you're kind of, branching out into all these different arenas. And I mean, I see you as a resource in here for people. And I think that, any of you who are out here and you're, world building or you're, trying to, just come up with something really cool, I think you should talk to Titan and, get some feedback and some information from him on, some possible really cool ideas, and then collaborate together because, you can do the back end of the work on the scripting. They can, create the world. You guys can collaborate and create something amazing for the end users.
Yeah, and it's all about keeping the systems very simple for the end user to use. The more simple, the better it is, because you tend to have issues where people don't quite understand that UI system to create certain objects to go into the world, or let's say bring special imagery down into the world, like what we have here. It's all about keeping that end user happy and a very simple UI system for them to use.
Goes back to the old, keep it simple, stupid. Like people just like, to be able to do something without having, working on something is one thing. Being frustrated and not understanding how to make something work is a whole nother story. And, for those people who are just starting out, just stick with it. Learn the stuff, move forward. I mean, you've been doing all this different stuff. You've created a bunch of different things and you're having fun while you're doing it. You just said it took you, an hour to build one piece and then 3 days to enhance it. But you're enjoying it, and that's the thing. You should, if you're doing this stuff, there should be some level of enjoyment mixed with the work because this is creativity. This is exciting. You've got an idea in your head. You're making it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest enjoyment for me is to be able to see people's reaction when they walk into the world, just to see how they react to it and what they do in there. Not only that, it's quite enjoyable to build these scripts that bring logistics and integration for the world, especially when VR chat doesn't have that much integration with YouTube and a few other platforms out there. It's nice to see that people use my systems to make their world more simple and easier to use.
For sure. Do you see yourself branching out of VR chat into some of the other programs out there? Whether it's, Horizon or, Cluster, any of these other programs?
I'm generally centralized in VR chat. I did actually come to VR chat from another application. I originally started doing my building and scripting over in a application called Engage, and that is for, I believe their slogan was learn, teach, experience, just to assist some people over there and make their job a little easier.
Nice. Okay. So who knows, maybe right now you're in VR chat, maybe down the road you find a niche in that you can share some of the stuff with the other platforms, or maybe some of your scripts will be able through AI to be manipulated and actually work in some of the other platforms as well.
Yeah, so I was looking into bringing an AI into VR chat, let's say for a chess game, because not everyone has another player to play chess with. We would link one of those pieces, either black or white, to a AI that will then be able to read what you put down on the board and then move its own piece to counter what you're doing.
So that's very cool, but that's also, going to make it so that I never win at chess, because at least with another human being, there's a possibility. Against an AI, I'm just never going to win. So, but I love the concept. I love that you're, making a friend through AI, somebody to hang out with and play a game if you're all by yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent a larger part of the year just learning how to prompt this AI into getting what I want out of it. I did hear you mention at the beginning of the show where you were talking about prompt engineering. That is something I'm able to do. I've spent countless hours just looking into these AIs and developing with them, so I'm fairly good at prompting them to get what I want. The AI that I use is called find.com. Now that's spelled PHIND.com. Just for any world builders that are looking for a companion to help build their worlds out with some code. It's a very reliable source. It does get some issues with it, but as long as you're prompting it the right way, you'll get what you want out of it.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that with us. And we'll make sure we put that in the Discord as well so that you guys can have these resources. Do make sure if you're not on our Discord right now, I think most of you are, but if you're not, please go on and join the server, because we put all these resources out there. I mean, the websites that you've mentioned and everything, we want you guys to be able to have access to this stuff. And we also put links to the videos. So if you want to rewatch how somebody was explaining something, you'll be able to see all of that. Up on the screen here, we have your Instagram account. If you go there, I believe there's a link in your bio to be able to access your Discord server, your own Discord server. Is it there?
I can go ahead and add it there. I don't generally keep up with Instagram, but I can go ahead and throw in some links there that'll get them greater access to my stuff.
Yeah, I actually just joined your Discord server this past week. There's, good resource there. So for all of you who are world builders or, doing some scripting and stuff, you definitely want to be following Titan, especially so you can see what he's doing. And also, so you guys can communicate and collaborate. You mentioned Engage was all about, learning and sharing. That's what we're here for too. We want everybody here to grow together. At the end of the day, if we all work together, we have a better experience for all. So I really appreciate you coming on to talk about all this with us. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share with us about, anything coming up with you?
Well, I am looking into creating systems within this new world where a Patreon user can go ahead and upload an image into one of my websites, and then that image will automatically displayed in the VR world as soon as you enter those VIP rooms.
Okay, all right, okay.
Just to personalize them a little bit more.
That I was just going to say, so you get a more personal experience when you're in there. I love that idea. That's great. That would be a great script for many different uses with the imagery, so that people could upload their own things into the worlds that they have. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Just to make it easier for them to swap out images.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody creates things and loves what they create, but even like in your home, sometimes you change things in real life. So it would be nice to be able to have easy access for some changing every once in a while. And if you're doing an event space, maybe you have the images that change could be even just like an image of the guest per week up on the wall, or it could be anything. You might just, change your color scheme once a quarter or something along those lines, where the images in your room change. That's a usable script that pretty much anybody with world building could be using.
Yeah, other than images, we can also change the color of lighting and a bunch of other objects in the world just through that type of same setup with the image.
And this would be usable for the end user, not just the person building the world. Like the guests within the world could also do this if somebody built the world for them?
Yeah, so I'm going to set it in the VIP system, where as soon as they enter that VIP room, it is all their color and their images, and just set it up in a way where they can use it.
Drop a portal.
Okay. And again, that's going to be accessible to your VIP Patreon members.
Yes.
Okay. So you hear it here. You want to go online. You want to join his Patreon. You want to have access to this world so that when the world goes live, probably, within the next couple months, you want to be able to be on that list so you have access to these VIP rooms.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have a lot more functionality than the regular end user will not have access to.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing all this with us. And again, I love seeing people from the community, start here and grow to here with all these different experiences that you had and sharing them with us. So we appreciate you coming on tonight. Next week, we are actually going to have Cyber Shay, who's in our audience right now. She is going to come on. And she's going to share with us the 8 million things that she is doing now since the last time we had her on the show last season. She's grown exponentially. This is another person in our community who, came on, was, checking things out, playing some games, and just started growing and, learning more and more, going and taking classes, learning new software. And now she's expanded into so many different areas. So that I'll leave that information for next week. It's going to be an exciting episode. Any of you who are out in the audience or who are watching this that, have grown within the community and learned how to do things that you would like to share with us and kind of give your experience to our watchers out there and our listeners, because, people are joining the metaverse daily. We've been here, many of us I see out in the audience, we've been here for several years. Personally, I've been on here for over 3 years, and I think that we start to take this for granted sometimes, that this is a common way of life. We're in here day after day, and this just seems normal to us. But the new people who are coming in are checking this out, and they're wowed by it. They're like, what is this? This is great. I want to be able to do this. So now you people who have been here for a while, you're the resources for the new people coming on. And, we hear people come on the show and say, we're the pioneers right now for, this is really taking off. COVID kind of pushed this to the forefront, and now people are really getting actively involved in this. Well, yes, that's true. This is definitely, far more engaging right now with more people worldwide than it was, 5 years ago. But that means that those of us that are in here all the time, we have, maybe a social responsibility to be teachers, to be educators, to get people to learn more about this, to grow the metaverse, to grow the VR experience, to, not necessarily teach people. Everybody doesn't need to know how to code. Everybody doesn't need to know how to build worlds, but to understand what is going on in here, because if they're excited about it, they're going to bring more people in here. And the more people that come in, the more opportunities there are for those of you who are in here trying to monetize. You need people to build the worlds for. You need an audience. For those of you building avatars, you need people to build the avatars for. So the more people that come in, the more it benefits all of us. And we grow as a community. There are so many interesting people in our community that do amazing things in the real world that we learn from them. We become friends with them. We gain knowledge about outside experience that we can incorporate in here in the metaverse. So I appreciate all of you who come and give me feedback or send me messages and tell me about other people who are in here that are worth talking to. So please keep that up. And again, thank you so much for coming on today, Titan. Anybody who wants to, talk to Titan more, he's around here in VR chat all the time. Maybe grab him tonight before he leaves. And we will see all of you next Monday when we talk to Cybershay. So thank all of you for being here tonight. We appreciate you. See you next Monday night.